Relatively little time passed between the Russian army's offensive on Bakhmut and Pokrovsk, but Russia's methods of waging war in Ukraine have changed significantly during this time, CNN writes. A post-apocalyptic scene depicts a column of Russian soldiers moving toward Pokrovsk under cover of thick fog. Some soldiers are riding motorcycles and mopeds, while others stand on the back of an old pickup truck. If the occupiers succeed in capturing Pokrovsk, it will be the largest city captured by the Russians since Bakhmut in May 2023. Like Bakhmut, Pokrovsk was almost completely destroyed, and its strategic importance has now significantly diminished. But, like Bakhmut before it, Pokrovsk has also become a symbol of Ukrainian resistance, the authors wrote. That's why Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is willing to pay almost any price for it. And why the Ukrainian army continues to hold it, despite the increasingly hopeless situation. Russia has been slowly advancing on Pokrovsk for almost 2 years, following the breakthrough in Avdiivka in early 2024. The publication writes that while the fates of Bakhmut and Pokrovsk may seem very similar, soldiers on the ground, military observers, and analysts say Russia's approach is very different. According to the authors, this change in tactics reflects how the war has evolved over the past 2 years. The offensive on Pokrovsk differs from Bakhmut, where a much more aggressive, direct frontal assault on urban areas was conducted. In Pokrovsk, the operational goal is to encircle Ukrainian forces, not necessarily to seize blocks one by one, Mason Clark, director of the Defense Europe project at the Institute for the Study of War, told CNN. The main reason for these changes was the widespread use of drones. Furthermore, recent technological advances allow them to be used in much greater numbers and over significantly greater distances. This has expanded the kill zones on both sides of the front line and significantly complicates advancement. At the same time, Russian occupiers rarely use heavy armored vehicles for forceful breakthroughs and increasingly try to penetrate Ukrainian territory using unconventional means of transport, such as mopeds and ATVs. A soldier from the 129th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, currently stationed near Kostiantynivka, told CNN that his unit's first encounter with Russians in buggies was extremely unexpected. It makes sense. We're using drones to strike, and it's easier for them to travel in light vehicles, he said. At the same time, Russian assault groups are also getting smaller. They've shrunk from 5 to 7 people to 3. A soldier from the 129th Brigade said it's now impossible to encounter a large enemy group even in urban areas. But they are difficult to track with reconnaissance drones because there is less movement on the screen, the soldier said. Another fighter from the Ukrainian drone group, Peaky Blinders, also noted that the Russians often move in groups of 3. He added that casualties remain high. They're counting on 2 being destroyed, but 1 still reaching the city and gaining a foothold there. About 100 such groups could pass through in a day, he said. The UK Ministry of Defence estimates that of the more than 1.1 million casualties Russia has suffered since it launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, a third were killed or wounded this year. This is possible for the Russians because they have agreed to a very slow pace of advance, and this rapid approach is indeed moving very slowly, whereas in 2022 and 2023 they were still much more focused on moving quickly, Clark said. At the same time, drones have complicated the evacuation of Ukrainian troops. A Ukrainian military medic from the Pokrovsk sector said that evacuation from Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad is now nearly impossible, as evacuation vehicles cannot approach closer than 10 to 15 kilometers. And even that distance remains extremely risky due to drones. The seriously wounded don't make it to the stabilization center. If someone is moderately wounded, they arrive to me in serious condition, if they're lucky enough to get there at all. Minor wounds arrive as moderate, he said. Firefighters in southeastern Texas battled a blaze at a decommissioned power plant that sent large plumes of smoke into the air on Sunday, and local officials warned area residents to avoid the smoke. According to Associated Press, the fire broke out at the decommissioned plant in the Texas City area of Galveston County around 2:30 a.m. and 50 to 60 firefighters from several departments in the area were on the scene through the day, Texas City Emergency Management Director Joe Tumbleson said by telephone. By late afternoon, all 5 cooling towers at the plant that was decommissioned in the 1990s had burned and collapsed, Tumbleson said. He said no injuries have been reported. The fire was mostly out by late afternoon, but it was expected to smolder through the night and perhaps into Monday, Tumbleson said. People nearby were advised to remain indoors or leave the area if they encounter smoky conditions, he said. The cause of the fire was under investigation.